I'm Janet Coates, and I'm the Initiative Manager for the New Media Journalism Initiative at the Patterson Foundation. The Journalism Initiative really speaks to the family's legacy in a very real, very connected way. Jim Patterson was an heir to a newspaper dynasty in this country, and an heir in more than just a financial sense. Certainly the family's wealth came through some major American newspapers, primarily the Chicago Tribune, but also the New York Daily News. But he was also an heir to a spirit of innovation and experimentation and risk-taking that goes back to his ancestor, Joseph Medill, who bought the Chicago Tribune when it was a failing newspaper and rejuvenated it in the 1840s, turned it into a powerhouse of community activism in Chicago. The Tribune Company, which owned the Chicago Tribune and which grew out of the family's investment in that newspaper, has been a company that was always jumping into the next new thing in journalism, whether that new thing was radio, or whether that new thing was television, or whether that new thing was the internet. The company made significant investments at each turn in the media, in the life of media in this country. And so the New Media Journalism Initiative is intended to reflect both where the financial gift of the Patterson Foundation comes from, and also the spirit in which that gift was nurtured and developed over the years. What we've been focusing on is new media journalism, and by that we mean journalism that's evolving in the digital space, online, social media, the evolving space beyond newspapers, beyond television, beyond radio. Really, truly kind of the fourth or fifth media platforms, moving beyond what got thrown in our yards every morning. And there is so much going on in that space. Journalism really is at a turning point in its life in this country as we move from journalism that was controlled primarily by big companies that owned a lot of newspapers or a lot of television stations, and we move into an age when anybody can have a printing press. You no longer have that barrier of entry to performing journalism and having to make a multi-million-dollar investment in the tools to create journalism. The tools to create journalism you can get at Best Buy with a couple of $100s. So we're trying to reflect the amazing amount of innovation that's happening in journalism, and the evolving definition of what journalism is and who is a journalist. It's not limited anymore to a person who works for a news organization. There are a lot of people who are doing journalism because they care passionately about their community or a particular subject, and there's a tremendous amount of innovation going on there. The journey we've been on in this initiative for the last several months has been trying to learn more about those innovators and what do they need to really sustain their innovation and help them to leverage the things that they are developing into an even more powerful force for community-level journalism that really focuses on local issues and local concerns and smaller communities of interest. What we've heard over and over, we've talked to about 45 or 50 people around the journalism space, people from existing news organizations, bloggers, people who are entrepreneurs who are developing new journalism sites out in the internet space. And what we've heard over and over is that there's so much innovation, it's so chaotic, things are changing so rapidly that it's very difficult for people to see the larger picture of innovation. It's difficult for somebody who's running a local blog in Oakland, California, to see what somebody in Knoxville, Tennessee may be doing. And what we've heard from folks around the country and all different kinds of organizations has been that somebody needs to help build a network of innovation so that the things that we're learning we can get into the field more broadly, more quickly, And that also we can learn from the things that didn't work so that we don't repeat the same mistakes over and over again, and we really gain momentum for the things that work. So the New Media Journalism Initiative now is working with several folks in different organizations and university settings who are beginning to try to figure out what that network might look like. And we want to really be the rocket fuel for creating that kind of network, something that's very real-time, that's very practical, that's very focused on here are things that work, and not waiting for a conclusion. So much of what goes on in journalism and in many other fields depends on a research phase, and after 2 or 3 years you report out your results. Well, journalism doesn't have the time or the money to wait for long research phases to be completed. We need to know what's working as we're learning it, and that's what the Innovators Network, which is the project that we're working on, would intend to do. We would intend to help shorten that time span between somebody discovering, oh, this works, and getting other people to be able to put that idea into practice. So that's what we're working towards, is trying to build that kind of connective tissue, that kind of a network of people who really are committed to the idea that local journalism matters and it enables democracy. We think what we're doing is just that important. It really does speak to the future of civic life in our communities, and we want to try to create momentum for the journalism that sustains that.